Every major step forward in my life has come from returning to the basics. Now, I remember in my final year of Oxford, I was floundering. They wanted me to take a year off and come back. And I knew if I took a year off and came back, well, I wouldn't come back. I'd take the year off and I'd take another year off and I would never come back. I'd never complete my degree. But I was floundering, I was struggling. And I said, look, I am not taking a year off. So they said, right, we're going to give you a mentor. And so you're going to meet him once a week. And over coffee, you're going to workshop your essays and dissertations. And so I turn up to the coffee shop. At first, I was against having a mentor, but it turned out that this really kind PhD student called Mark ended up being my saviour. I'd turn up, we'd have a mocha latte or whatever, we'd have a coffee, croissant, and I'd be ready to discuss some highfalutin bullshit. I'd want some real complex techniques for writing essays, and every time I'd be met with the same thing. Mark would say, Ben, you haven't peed on your work. I was like, oh, this shit again, this basic shit. But it wasn't basic, it was gold. Now, you haven't peed on your work? What does that mean? It doesn't mean that I need to unzip and urinate all over the paper. No, if you pee on your work, it means you follow a tried, tested and true formula. Point, example, explanation. It's how you structure your essays, it's how you structure your dissertations, it's how you structure any writing where you want to be persuasive and powerful. It's how you structure your life. Point, example, explanation. It's basic. They teach you that at GCSE. They teach you that when you're 12 years old. And I remember rejecting it because I was arrogant and I was a little shit and I thought, I'm too good for that, I reject that. And I sailed on the merit of being able to construct big words and complicated ideas and stuff, but I didn't follow the formula. It was only by returning to that formula, point, example, explanation, and drilling it. I drilled it over and over and over again. I'd go for past papers and I'd practice writing point, example, explanation. I'd pick it out, I'd brainstorm it. What's the point I want to make? What's an example? How would I elaborate and explain upon that? Point, example, explanation. I drilled it until I started producing first class essays. I went from floundering to being an academic success. And this happens every time, in every realm of my life. When I was learning Japanese, I was trying to, there's 5 categories when you're doing the JLPT, that's the bloody Japanese language proficiency test. There's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I should have been learning vocabulary and grammar constructions from JLPT 4. That means that's quite basic, okay? I was learning vocabulary from 1. That's stuff that you would only get in technical academic papers, and it's stuff that I probably wouldn't even know those words in English. Why was I doing that? And I was learning advanced grammar when I hadn't completely nailed the causative and passive forms. Why was I doing all this complicated shit when I haven't nailed the basics, the foundations, the bedrock upon which the language, you can produce it? So I went back to the bedrock, I went back to the foundations, went back to the basics, and I drilled over and over and over and over again until it became like second nature. And then I took a leap forward and I could speak Japanese. Amazing. It happened as well in the gym. I was in the squat rack, I was gasping for air, and I realized, why have I got all this weight on the bar when I'm not going all the way to the ground? They call it arse to the grass. I said, I am doing myself a disservice here. I'm doing ego lifting and it's not helping. It's not helping my physique and it's not helping my strength. It's not helping my flexibility. It's not helping how I look. It's not helping anything. So I ditched all the weight, started with the bar, focused on my form, got my arse to the grass, right down there. And the only thing that I did different was I started keeping a notebook, because I noticed that every time I kept a notebook, I had accountability and I had records. So I could see, this week I need to improve something. It could be an extra rep, it could be adding 2.5 kg on the bar, it could be whatever it is. And as a set, at least when you write it down, you can see where you improve. So I did 2 things, ditched the weight, focused on the form, did it properly and tracked it. What happened? I got stronger, I fat blitzed off my midsection, I got into shape, I lost a lot of fat that I needed to lose. Bruce Lee says he doesn't fear the man who has 1,000 kicks. He fears the man who has mastered 1 kick and has drilled it over 1,000 times. He said something to that effect. And the Japanese Zen masters, they say, Chiri mo simoriba yamato naru. That means even dust piled up becomes a mountain. Drillers are killers. That's what the BJJ guys say. And they drill basic hooks and throws over and over and over again until they are formidable. So my imploration to you, my request, my behest, my begging is to you, go back to the basics. Drill it, drill it, drill it, drill it. Mind-numbing drilling. Boring. If you're a pianist, you practice scales over and over again, super slow. You're bored as hell. That's how you get good. If you're an artist, just sketch sugar bowls over and over again. Perspective, 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 shading, 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 shading. Basic, basic, basic. If you're a writer, P on your work, point, example, explanation. Do it. Master the basics. That's how you become advanced. Good luck.